Caseus. Dawn of War. Chapter 2. Caseus awoke the next day an hour before sunrise. Getting dressed and grabbing his gear, he stepped out of his quarters and found a book sitting in front of his door with a note on the cover.
Caseus, this book helped me when I was a Padawan. It contains hundreds of pages covering plenty of exercises and training routines that you may find very useful. Take good care of it. You may be passing it down to your student in time. I'll see you soon. Master Takai.
Caseus flipped through the old pages of the book and saw illustrations and step-by-step techniques he'd never heard of before. Inside one of the pages was a handwritten note. The Room of 1,000 Fountains. Caseus had never heard of this place before. He'd lived in the Jedi Temple for nearly 20 years and thought he'd explored every inch of it by now. Taking the book with him, he walked down the steps into the halls of the temple. As he walked, he flipped through the pages looking for directions to this mysterious room when he bumped into someone, dropping his book and gear. "Oh, sorry, I got it." Caseus looked up and saw a man with a kind expression hand him back his dropped book. "Mind your surroundings, Padawan." "Master Kenobi, greetings." Obi-Wan Kenobi. Caseus had only met him once or twice in passing. The other masters spoke very highly of him. Ever since taking Skywalker as his apprentice, he was usually off-world, completing missions for the Council with Anakin by his side. "Where are you off to, young one?" My master's been sent to investigate a possible lead on, someone of interest, and left me with a book of training exercises. I found a note she had written mentioning the Room of 1,000 Fountains. Do you know where that is?" Master Kenobi scratched his beard. "You'll find the Room of 1,000 Fountains on the ground level of the eastern end of the temple. Speak to one of the masters nearby, and they'll give you the access code." "Thank you, Master Kenobi. You just returned from off-world, am I right?" "Yes, my Padawan and I recently returned from a rather dicey border dispute on Ancion. All things considered, I think we handled it quite well." "That's good. Well, I should get going, but can I ask you a question?" "Of course." I want to make my master proud. She thinks that soon I might be ready to face the trials. I want to do whatever I can to show her I'm ready. What should I do?" "I'd say to be mindful, Padawan. The trials are not something to be taken lightly. They will test everything you know about being a Jedi. Your mind, your body, and your spirit will be pushed to their limit. If you want to make your master proud, work hard. Do not take any of her lessons for granted. Everything she teaches you is something you will need to know at some point in your life. Take everything she's told you to heart. Push yourself hard in your training, and you will be ready to have your abilities tested. Patience and perseverance. That is my advice to you." "Thank you, Master. I better get started. Goodbye." "May the Force be with you, Padawan." Caseus walked down the corridors to the eastern end of the temple to the ground floor and looked around. "Okay, it should be here somewhere."
"Can I help you, Caseus?"
Caseus looked up next to him and saw Master Shak Ti. "Greetings, Master. I'm looking for the Room of 1,000 Fountains. Can you tell me where it is?"
"Follow me. I'll take you to the room."
Caseus nodded and followed the Togrutan master down the hallway. Master T had given Caseus a few lessons in meditation years ago. She was very wise and as kind as a Jedi could be. Leading him to a door, Master T entered a code into a keypad.
"The door code is 75637. You'll find great peace in here, Caseus. Remember not to neglect your training, however."
"I won't. Thank you." Caseus walked inside as the door closed behind him. He looked around in awe. It was almost as if he'd left Coruscant and entered the jungles of some distant world. All around him he saw green. Trees, bushes, vines, moss, and small waterfalls and fountains scattered in various locations. It was warm too. Almost too warm. Removing his robe and outer tunic, Caseus walked forward until he found a small clearing of grass and large rocks. Sitting in the middle of the clearing, Caseus closed his eyes and began to meditate, taking in the sounds of the insects and the babbling water splashing against the stones. There is no emotion. There is peace. There is no ignorance. There is knowledge. There is no passion. There is serenity. There is no chaos. There is harmony. There is no death. There is the Force. Caseus took several deep breaths in through his nose and out through his mouth. He felt calm, at peace. All of his worries about the Republic and the galaxy began to fade from his mind. All he was focused on was the living Force. After an hour of meditation, he picked up the book and began looking through the pages and found an exercise all about balance. The illustration showed a Jedi student balancing on one hand on top of a tall structure. Okay, this seems as good a place as any to start. Stepping on top of a tall rock overlooking a stream of water, Caseus stood on his hands slowly, keeping himself balanced. He then removed his left hand from the stone, and within seconds he could feel the strain. He tried to keep his balance as long as he could before tumbling forward off the rock and into the shallow stream below, hitting his head on a fallen tree branch. Ow! Easy, Caseus. Just get up and go again. Climbing back up the rock, Caseus stood once again on his right hand, slowly extending his legs and keeping his body as straight as possible. His arm began to hurt, and he felt his body wobble, but he kept his focus and took a few deep breaths, regaining his balance. The blood in his legs slowly began to pool into his head, but Caseus kept himself calm and balanced. After a few minutes, he slowly lowered himself, feeling dizzy as the blood rushed from his head. Splashing some water from the stream on his face, he slicked back his hair and looked through the book again for another exercise. Flipping through the pages of the book, he found a series of combat drills. They didn't appear to adhere to any one particular form of lightsaber combat. It seemed as though these techniques were developed by Master Takai personally, as there were very detailed notes walking the practitioner through each step. Caseus sat the book against a tree, trying to emulate the wide, flowing movements of the form. Each movement of the blade and his feet had to be in perfect sync to pull it off correctly. It felt very similar to the blade work of Makashi, with precise movement of the blade in 7 different directions. Yet the footwork was far more agile and graceful. It felt as though he was trying to combine 2 styles that wouldn't normally mix well. Caseus caught on fairly quickly. Within the hour, he was able to execute the drills with relative ease. Okay, what's next? Caseus continued to browse through the book and found a serious test of endurance and will. The illustration showed a Jedi in meditation, lifting 3 large boulders into the air and maintaining each one at a consistent elevation for as long as possible. Looking around, Caseus was able to find a few large rocks. Not quite as large as what was shown in the illustration, but a fair bit heavier than anything he levitated on a regular basis. Sitting in the center of the 3 rocks, Caseus looked at the book and saw a list of timestamps marked in the book. 1 minute, 7 minute, 20 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, and Master Takai's personal best, 5 hours. She did this for 5 hours? That's incredible. Well, let's get to work. Closing his eyes, Caseus cleared all thoughts from his head, taking slow, deep breaths as he began to concentrate. The 3 rocks slowly began to float in the air. Within the first 10 seconds, Caseus could already feel the intense strain. He focused, trying to keep the rocks levitated. Before a minute was up, Caseus dropped them, exhausted and breathing heavily. Whoa, how was she able to do this? Closing his eyes and concentrating, Caseus tried again to lift the rocks. He only managed a paltry 7 seconds before dropping them again. It was too much, at least for the moment. He'd have to come back to this exercise later. Caseus spent the next 3 hours looking through the book, finding new techniques he'd never heard of before. Soon he was tired, sweating, and ready to call it a day. As he fastened his belt and straightened his tunic, his comlink began to beep. Exiting the room, he answered. Hello?
Caseus, get to the briefing room. Hurry.
Okay, I'm on my way. Running down the eastern corridor and up the steps, Caseus arrived at the briefing room, where Sarah was standing with Master Drollig and a few other Jedi, staring at a holoscreen. What's going on?
There was an assassination attempt made on Senator Amidala. Look!
On the screen, Caseus saw the remains of a destroyed Naboo starcruiser, with security stationed around the area. What happened? Was she hurt?
No. She had her decoy with her. Unfortunately, she didn't survive. Right now, she's being kept safe under heavy security.
Do they have any suspects?
Not yet. You know as much as I do.
What should we do, Master?
Right now, we must remain calm and be grateful that the senator was not hurt. The council's senior members are currently en route to see the chancellor. When they return, we will be given our orders. In the meantime, it would be wise to remain indoors until a suspect is found.
Okay. Let's hope they figure it out soon.
I'm certain they will, Caseus. Now you and Sarah best be off. I have matters to discuss with temple security.
Yes, Master. Come on, Caseus. Corbyn should be back soon.
Right. Let's go. Sarah and Caseus left the briefing room and left to the front of the temple, waiting on the front steps. If I wasn't worried before, I am now.
Don't get too jittery. They'll find out who's responsible for this.
I know. I just hope they find out before anyone else gets killed.
You don't sound too optimistic.
I can't say I am. Let's just not talk about this right now.
Fine by me. Ugh, you stink. Were you training?
Yeah, sorry. Master Takai left me this book of exercises she wants me to start learning. I was training in the Room of 1,000 Fountains.
I've heard of that place. I've never had much time to see it in person. What's it like?
Honestly, it feels completely different. As soon as I was inside, I felt at peace. Like nothing else mattered. Sarah skimmed through the book.
You sure these techniques are useful? I'm not seeing much in here that could help in a battle.
If Master Takai thinks he'll help me, I trust her. She's been doing this a lot longer than I have. Just then, a transport shuttle approached the front of the temple and began to land. That must be him. The door to the shuttle opened and out stepped Corbyn and Master Terran, both looking exhausted and ready for rest. Corbyn's eyes met those of his friends, and suddenly, he seemed full of life again as he ran towards them, leaving his master to handle their luggage. Look who's back! Caseus hugged Corbyn, and the two shared a hearty laugh.
Good to see the temple improved its welcoming committee.
It's great to see you again, Corbyn.
Good to see you too, Sarah. Hey, let's chat over lunch. I have to take care of some things with Master Terran. I'll see you there.
Sounds good. See you then. Corbyn turned and began speaking with Master Terran as Caseus and Sarah walked through the corridors.
So, what now?
Well, we have some time. Want to see the Room of 1,000 Fountains?
Sure, why not?
The Padawans traversed the temple halls talking about recent events and possible upcoming dangers. Upon reaching the room, Caseus entered the code into the keypad and it opened, revealing the room in all its grandeur.
It's beautiful.
Right? I didn't know there was a room like this here until this morning. Caseus led Sarah to the spot where he was doing his exercises earlier. Sarah picked up a small, smooth stone from the floor and floated it in her hand. I'll show you the exercise I had trouble with. Caseus sat in the grass by the stones and closed his eyes in a meditative stance and slowly began lifting them in the air. Once again, he lasted just under a minute before they dropped.
Seems like an exercise in concentration.
Yeah, but it's hard to concentrate when you're trying to keep these heavy rocks in the air. Sarah thought for a moment and looked at Caseus.
I think I might know the problem. You're pushing yourself too hard too fast. Try lifting one to start. When you get acclimated to that, add another.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds right. I'll give it a go. Closing his eyes again, Caseus lifted the first rock. It wasn't nearly as much of a burden this time. He held the stone in the air for a full minute and a half before letting it float down gently. Okay, I think you're right. I just need to ease into it.
Not the first time I've been right.
Humility, young Padawan, said Caseus, impersonating Master Dralig. Sarah laughed and looked at the book.
Mind if I take a look at that?
Sure, just be careful. Sarah looked through the pages and found a balance exercise. Looking up, she saw a few tall branches in the tree above them.
It says this exercise is to help maintain balance during combat on uneven ground. Want to try it?
Sure, let's do it.
Okay. One of us is the aggressor, the other is the defender.
Okay, why don't you play the aggressor? I'll take a look at the book while you get ready. Sarah nodded and leapt up to the branch and sat down while Caseus read the directions. Seems simple enough. I need to trust my instincts and let the force guide my feet to where they need to be. Caseus leapt up to the branch and landed softly as Sarah took position, activating her lightsabers. Caseus in turn activated his and looked directly at Sarah, taking a deep breath. Ready?
Ready.
Sarah carefully moved forward, maintaining her balance, keeping one blade out in front of her. Caseus stood still, waiting for her to make a move. Lunging forward, Sarah attempted to strike Caseus on his foot. Caseus blocked the attack, falling back on his Form 2 training and maintaining even footwork as he balanced on the bouncing branch. This kind of reminds me of the last time we fought. You know, where you got us into trouble?
You're the one who accepted that challenge.
Yeah, after you egged me on.
Maybe you just need a thicker skin.
Sarah landed a graceful flip, striking at Caseus again, who leapt back, trying his hardest to concentrate and feel where his feet should land. Surprisingly, Sarah quickly threw one of her sabers at Caseus, who quickly bent backwards, narrowly avoiding the attack. Whoa, easy!
Just trying to keep you on your toes, Caseus. I've learned a lot since our last skirmish.
Sarah quickly maneuvered her blade to the left as Caseus blocked. Sarah followed up by bringing her second blade right to his shoulder, which he narrowly avoided. Sarah began pressing the attack, moving Caseus back towards the edge of the branch. Soon he was as far out as he could go. He ducked and dodged several more strikes. One strike came so quickly Caseus lost his footing and dropped, grabbing the branch and swinging back up behind Sarah. Blocking another strike and catching both of her blades in a downward parry, staring straight into her eyes. For a brief moment, Caseus felt something. An odd feeling he hadn't felt before. This brief moment of distraction was all Sarah needed as she quickly scissored her blades across Caseus' feet, causing him to stumble and fall off the branch, hitting the ground below, knocking the wind out of him.
Caseus!
Sarah leapt down and eased her friend into an upright position.
Are you okay? I'm sorry. I kinda got caught in the heat of the moment.
I think that's enough for now. Good one. Sarah helped Caseus to his feet as he dusted himself off and grabbed his saber and the book. You really have learned some new tricks. Not bad.
Thanks. You sure you're okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm gonna head to my room and get cleaned up. I'll see you and Corbyn in the cafeteria.
Okay. We'll save you a seat.
Parting ways and leaving the room, Caseus rubbed the back of his shoulder as he walked back to his quarters, setting out a fresh outfit and stepped into the shower to clean up. As he dried off, he thought to himself, what was that feeling he had during that fight? Was it intimidation? He hadn't been intimidated by Sarah since the first time they met. Was it something else? He decided to ignore it, chalking it up to exhaustion from the extensive training. Getting dressed, he went downstairs to the cafeteria and saw Sarah sitting with Corbyn, talking.
Caseus, over here.
Caseus nodded and joined his friends.
Corbyn was just telling me about his mission.
Okay, start over. I want to hear this.
Okay, so, Master Terran and I were sent to the Andara system to investigate raids made by pirates on their shipping freighters. These people provide a lot of goods and supplies to systems in the Republic, so we were sent to protect an important shipment and stop the pirates if possible. When we arrive, we talk to the people and we get to work. As we guide the shipment, the pirates attack. We stop them, and wouldn't you believe it, these pirates are citizens of Andara. They're hoping to cause a rift between Andara and the Republic.
Why would they do that?
The attackers want out of the trade deal with the Republic. They think they're not being compensated enough, and they've had it with Republic jurisdiction in their system. They claim independence from the Central Galactic governments and want out. The other citizens want to join the Republic in exchange for a voice in the Senate and protection from outside threats.
Well, with the attack on Senator Amidala this morning, I guarantee you these things are going to get worse.
I agree. I think our enemies sense the tension and conflict in the Republic right now and want to use it against us.
Do you think Dravok could be involved in this somehow?
Master Takai is currently investigating intel that could lead us to him. Still, this doesn't seem like Dravok's work. I think this might be bigger than we know.
Well, Senator Amidala is going before the Senate today to oppose the Military Creation Act. If you're right, Caseus, and the threat is larger than we think, we might need a military.
I'm surprised it took us this long to come to this discussion. We don't have enough Jedi to defend every system if it comes to war. We need military strength to keep these systems safe.
I don't know. I think it might cause more problems than it solves. What do you think, Caseus?
I think it's a gray area. There's benefits and problems with both sides of the argument. If we create a military, it's like we're opening the gates for conflict. If we don't, we won't have the protection we need to keep the Republic safe. I don't know. All I know is that neither option leads to a perfect solution. And we're running out of time. Caseus and his friends sat and talked a little longer before Caseus said goodbye and returned to his room. As he looked over the book, his holoprojector began beeping. Turning it on, a blue flickering image of Master Takai appeared.
Caseus, I've just arrived at my destination. Is everything okay? I heard about the attack on the senator from Naboo.
Everything is fine. Senator Amidala is speaking before the Senate shortly, and the Council is currently meeting with the Chancellor. They'll find out who's behind this attack soon.
I hope so. Will you able to look at the book I left you?
Yeah, it's great. I'm learning a lot.
That's good. Remember, take care of that book. It may come in handy further down the line.
I will. Any news on Dravok?
I have a possible lead. I'm heading out shortly to investigate. I'll be out of communication for a day or so. If you need help with anything, talk to Master Drolic.
I will.
I need to get going now. May the Force be with you, Caseus.
You too, Master. The hologram faded out and Caseus sat at his desk. He couldn't keep his eyes open much longer. He decided to lie in bed and rest. Even as he slept, that unshaken feeling of dread filled his mind. Something was coming. Soon.